Welcome, everybody, to Nothing Less Than Extraordinary. I am super thrilled to have Kelly Hawley with us. I'm going to do a brief intro, but first, let me welcome her. Kelly, nice to meet you. I'm so happy to see you in person visually through virtual after a phone call. So it's nice meeting you.
Absolutely. Thank you. It's nice meeting you as well. And thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to our conversation and seeing what truth I can shed on the true pandemic, the true epidemic that is going on in our world.
Yes. And the real stuff that needs to be talked about, which we don't get a lot of coverage. So today's topic is a really big one and a very important one. And some may be a little bit harder to digest for most people. But as this platform is really raw and deep, so I'm just cautioning people if somehow you get emotional or it's too affected, digest it a little bit at a time. You can always watch it and come back after. But we really want to give it shed the light as it truly needs to be covered. So the title of today's topic is The Truth Behind Child Sex Trafficking, an important issue that needs to really be shined upon. So thank you for having the courage to be here. I'm going to do the little bio of Kelly. I mean, her bio is quite extensive, and this is just a little glimpse into her. So Kelly, at any point, please feel free to add in. I don't want to leave out anything. So I know this is just a small section of your biography.
Thank you.
Kelly Hawley is an ordained minister and a founder and executive director of the Warrior Bride Ministry, specializing in inner healing and deliverance for survival of satanic ritual abuse, SRA, and those who have a dissociative identity disorder, DID. Kelly has been ministering for Survivor for 15 years, including working as the director of Healing Retreat for Voices Today. While ministering to Survivor with similar story as her own, she noticed the Lord was sending many who have been trafficked. That exposed her to the bigger picture of SRA. And the lack of help available to traffic survivor and those with the DID, which is dissociative identity disorder. After being called out of the corporate America to start her own business about 10 years ago, her heart for seeing others heal and redeem continued to be her growing passion. In 2021, the Lord led her to start Warrior Bride Ministry with the mission of providing biblical healing and restoration of child exploitation to survivor. The office is in Kennesaw. Is that it?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And it serves clients internationally. In addition to inner healing and deliverance, Warrior Bride Ministry partner with others in the healing profession to offer resources such as biochart, DBT, CBT. Those are all different therapies as well. Sand tray therapy, life skill coaching, and discipleship to survivor free of charge. Additionally, she embraces the call to unite the body of Christ to become an educated and involved through church, partnership, and hosting Counting the Coast Conference. It has been an amazing journey with the Lord teaching her how to walk survivor through healing by incorporating mind, body, spirit, and soul for complete healing. Kelly's enjoy attending conference and continue education opportunity as the Lord continue to reveal the enemy blueprint of war and his victory plan for survivor. So her heart cries is for all believer to embrace. Is it Isaiah?
Sorry?
Isaiah? It's Isaiah, right? It says her heart cries for all believers.
Isaiah 61. Oh, it's the scripture.
Exactly. Yeah. Isaiah 61, by becoming equipped to walk in the anointing. Oh my God, I can't read this. So, that will bind up the the brokenhearted and set the captive free. So basically, it's trying to provide all these tools and all this therapy free of charge to survivor who's been a victim of traffickings and sexual abuse and so on. So a very, very important cause.
Thank you. Yes, it's a very needed call.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's very needed. It's there was a time not that long ago where you wouldn't even talk about sexual abuse. It was just kind of taboo. It was kind of swept under the rug, and it wasn't all that long ago.
Yeah.
Then we're finally have gotten to the point where we have put a light on it, and people are talking about it more and understanding it a little bit more, only to learn that a lot of those sexually abused were trafficked also. And so now we're in this phase of most people starting to understand a little bit about trafficking. I don't think anybody has an idea of the extent of trafficking and the business that it is and the international crime ring that it is. But there's a little bit of a light being shed on it, and there is some activity on looking at it. And then what comes next is the thing that the Lord has led me to, is most people, huge percentage, the light is very little being shined on it. It started with Epstein, and some of that you started getting a little bit more of a light on it. But a big percentage, a good percentage of those trafficked are actually ritually abused, that it is part of a ritual abuse as part of what they do. And in those cults that do this, they are also looking for the money and the power and the guns and the drugs, and all of it is part of the big network.
It all goes together, huh?
Yeah, and sometimes you'll have some that's a one-off, and it's just the creepy stepfather or whatever, but there is a very large criminal ring that is satanic in nature, and it has no conscience, and it will start abusing at even baby, when they're first born. So it's a big problem, and you see the results of it in our society today. When you see all these things happening, it's because this has all been in the dark, but it's been flourishing, it's coming up, but few understand what's really going on. And so that's part of my call, is to help shed that light on what's going on. So hopefully people will not give in to fear, because those who know Yeshua, Jesus, every knee shall bow to him in his name. So you can fight this with him and win. But it's a matter of people rallying and not giving into the fear that's been released in our society. There's so many things people are afraid of right now. Of course, the COVID kicked it off a lot, but there's just a lot of fear. Even when you look at any of the YouTubes or TikToks or whatever, you see, people just kind of going crazy, right? And so then there's a fear released. So a big part of what's underlining that is what the enemy has been doing, and it's just, it's starting to show itself more, the results of it more.
And do you have this statistic? I know that our statistic is, so much of it is not being reported, so much of it are hidden. But do you have any kind of stat with regards to that number? I know that human trafficking is becoming a huge, huge problem.
Yeah,
Unknown.
It's bypassed drugs and guns in terms of money making. If you think about it, excuse me, a child can unfortunately be used over and over and over, right? Where drugs, you take them, and then plus, unfortunately, there's a big thirst for it. Now, statistically, as far as the abuse goes, it's what's been reported, and most don't get reported because it's a psychological thing, and they could get their family be threatened, or they'll think it's their fault, or they've convinced them it's their secret, and they're a child, they don't know. But what's been reported is 1 in 3 girls, and 1 in 5 to 6 boys. Now, that's changing rapidly. So in my opinion, you could double that, because most is not reported. But it's changing rapidly to be a little bit more even. There's a lot of abuse going on with the males. And I don't know if it's actually increased, or if the awareness of it has increased more. I'm not sure, but it's definitely getting a little bit more even. like more of a 50-50, maybe 60-40. Money wise, millions and billions of dollars. Ford put out a statistic. I don't want to misquote it, but it was surpassing drugs and guns and stuff in terms of dollars produced.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm shocked. I didn't know that number was that huge. I thought
Yeah.
drugs and guns would still be in the top.
No. Unfortunately, and that's the thing that part of what my call is, part of what I'm doing, part of what I'm going to increase in doing is speaking about the truth of this. A lot of people don't want to hear it. It's not a fun cocktail party conversation, but the truth is we have to. You
Yeah.
have to face it. You can't conquer anything that you don't face, right?
Yeah.
If we turn our face, it will eventually make it to your neighborhood. It's probably already in your neighborhood. It will make it to your
Yeah.
cul-de-sac. Let's say.
Probably is already in your neighborhood. You just don't know about it. And there's more and more story that I hear nowadays. Before I didn't hear it as much. I remember when I was younger, you would hear like once in a while, you want to be careful. Your parent tells you you don't want to be kidnapped in a car. But now I'm hearing it more and more predominantly, and even with young children, even kids saying it. So it's quite scary. I mean, it seems to be like at the beginning when I used to hear that 15, 20 years ago, that was like far away, but now I'm hearing like it's in your neighborhood, like people
Mhm.
getting kidnapped. So definitely it's probably happening closer by to our place than we could possibly imagine. We just don't know about it. The other thing that I also wanted to ask was, uh, because I think it's so amazing, like that your organization, that's why I wanted to bring it to the forefront and really help promote and, people who wants to donate and help out as well, because I imagine for you, it's a nonprofit organization. You have no funding. You're not even accepting any funding from the government, or is it the government, or it's really based on donation, right? People helping out.
Yeah. So we don't charge anyone. And we don't get any government funding. We want to keep that separate for reasons that I probably don't want to talk about right now, but we want to keep that separate. So we don't have any grants or anything like that. So it's 100% donation based. And there's people I work with for years, multiple times a week for years, because the trauma is so severe. But yes, we do not charge. We do not. We go totally by donations.
Mhm, mhm.
So yeah, and if they're curious what we do, a little bit more about it, other than talk about it, we do need to be a voice. But what we do on the everyday basis is biblical healing and restoration for trauma, and we specialize in complex, severe trauma, because that's what you're going to find when you find the child sex trafficking victim and the ritually abused. They have some of the most horrific things that you can probably go through in this world. So we help walk them through to restoration and healing. Right now, what the world does primarily with them is they don't know, most of the time they're like, well, we don't specialize in that. We're not equipped, this, that, and the other. So they put them in a psych ward, and that's where the abuse just continues, in terms of, it could continue in terms of the sexual abuse, but just like, instead of giving them healing, you're just drugging them and telling them they're crazy and they're this and they're that, and you're isolating them. So they just get victimized all over again. When people come to me, most of the time they have a bag full of like 19 meds, just a bag full. And I'd be like, I'd be acting crazy too if I was taking all of that. I mean, that is not what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And I'm not a doctor, so I don't tell anybody to get off any of it. But most of the time, before too long, they're down to either none or one or two, something much more reasonable. We also do we do our own like tinctures and lotions, all natural. We try to get back to all natural stuff. So we help them to try to switch from all the junk and the GMOs and stuff over to much more natural and healthy foods eating. Because usually they haven't learned any life skills if they're in a scenario like that. I mean, we've had to teach people how to eat, how to wash their hair, how to keep a house, you know, just everything, just the basics. But then on top of it, they have to go through one of the hardest healing that you could go through. So the healing is hard work for them on top of it, because in some ways they have to not face it all, but there's certain portions they have to face to process to get past it, to get healed. What happens is we're meant to be whole, right? We're meant to be whole, but this world just beats us up, right? And as it does, we get fragmented, right? So you start getting fragmented into pieces. And all of us, it would be an extremely rare person that doesn't have a little bit of partial fragmentation through some kind of trauma that has occurred, whether it be divorce, car accident, rejection at school, something. You have a little bit of wounding in which the enemy can work through. But with these people, they have been just beat so much that their fragmentation is total fragmentations in hundreds or thousand pieces. And so when that happens, it's, you know, that's when they get into the DID and stuff like that, because the Lord in his goodness, he knew we would have trauma, some form of trauma here on this earth. And so he created us in a way that when we had that trauma, if it was too much for us to continue functioning in this world, it would go behind an amnesic wall. And so it would be captured behind an amnesic wall until the time that you were ready to process it. So they have a lot of that. And so depending on the severity of that trauma, they will end up with DID, which is another word for it is multiple personality disorder. And that's all just from the trauma that they had to endure as a child. Usually to get that, you had to have severe trauma before age 8, because that's when the mind can split like that. It's easier. It could happen later, but it's usually before the age 8. And that's what they purposely do, is get, you know, the children prior to 8 to do that. So does that make sense, or is that too deep?
No, it makes a lot of sense. Yes, because I work in the helping field, so it makes a lot of sense. And when you go through such a huge trauma like this is, like you said it so well, it's like this is the human survival mode of trying to make sense of this whole crazy ordeal. Like, you know, so you have this split personality happening at the same time that try to kind of just take a breather and kind of, you know, process when you're ready. So, I mean, I would probably have that too. Like if I've been going through those type of experience, and
every one of us would. That's the way the Lord designed us, so that we could survive. So we all would. It's just that, and they're a little bit shunned upon, and they shouldn't be, because that's re-victimizing them. Again, these were children that were just severely abused in ways that you can't even fathom.
Yeah, and talking about that, which is so important, is that I know, like, coming from a relationship of a toxic abusive relationship, that when you go and you tell your story to other people or authorities or friends and family, you get re-victimized because people makes you doubt yourself. And not that I'm saying that my friends do that or anything like that, or authority does that, but it's because they're trying to play the neutral zone. So they are trying to do their very best without the knowledge and understanding of your experience. So they have to look through a different kind of lens. And so unintentionally, unconsciously, they victimize you over and over again. So I do understand this process when, you know, I think it's so important that, so which brings me to this question: what can us average people, like, or professional also, who may not be quite attuned or have the experience with dealing with people who've gone through abuse or sex trafficking and all that, how can we be of supportive to them? Because I think we don't want to re-victimize them over and over again. They're already having to deal with so much already. How can
Right.
we show up for them?
Well, you cannot be afraid, first of all. Hollywood has done a good job of making them into, Sybil and whatever those other movies that have been out recently, Split or something like that. Um, most of the parts are the sweetest little, because they were little kids, they were pure. And most of them are very, very sweet. You do have a protector that is the one that is charged with protecting the body in case something came at him again. So you have to earn the trust of the protector and stuff. So you just, give them a chance, just love them, give them an opportunity, and don't fall victim to the fear that that's been released, because they're really just people wanting love that they never got, when they should have. They should have been protected, and they should have been loved and saved and taught, but they weren't.
Yeah.
And so, but the thing is, they can be redeemed, and that's what we're doing. We're working with them, showing them that we're not afraid and that we do love them and we care and we understand how awful it was, and we want to help. And as you do that, the parts start to feel safe and loved, and then they come forward and they meet Yeshua, their maker, and feel safe and become whole again. So then they start coming back together.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they're a
Good.
person.
Yes. It's a
Yes.
really, really good point of what you're saying. I mean, for a long time, I refused, because I've been in the helping field and working as a social worker, thinking, how could I possibly find myself in an abusive relationship? But this happens to every class, no matter what class, social, economic, or how many education you might have had. You just never think it could happen to you until it actually happens to you. And for the longest time, I refused to go into these abused women groups, because I didn't want to be, quote unquote, be one of them. And as I did my journey on my own, and I now am actually taking those courses with the women that are there. And I am so grateful for the nonprofit organization that are doing this and helping us, because I've learned so much. And like you said, is just to listen, like feel like, because for me, 17 years having to constantly justify myself that what was being done to me was not okay, that I was not crazy.
Right.
And, and to finally have somebody like a worker or another woman who feel the same experience, understand, or not saying, judging, asking questions, just listening to you. And then so when you start feeling safe again, you start to find your voice again, you start to
Yeah.
find little strength, little bit by little, and then you start
Mhm.
trusting yourself a little bit more, and then you realize you're not crazy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is another one of the big lies, because a lot of it's based on lies. As they're abusing them, they tell them, that they're no good, they're this, they're that, and that's what they registered in their minds. But that is one of the big lies. They tell them that they're crazy, and that they are not crazy. This is not a psychological issue of being crazy. This is a result of trauma that needs to be healed. And so what you really have to do is start replacing the lies with truth.
Yeah.
And the truth is that they aren't all those things that those people said they were, and what they did to them. None of that is really who they are. Who they are is a child of the King who is, who adores them.
Yeah. And it's normal for them to have dissociative personality, because what happened is, when you're being denied your reality for so long, when you think what you see, whatever your reality is, and somebody tells you it isn't, and constantly repeat all of these negative things, and your own self-worth and your self-esteem just go underground, it's really hard for you to be able to distinguish what's real and what's not. So
Yeah.
you're in this alternate world of like, I can't tell the truth from reality or not.
Yeah.
So normal. And so this is so, so important. And I think for sexual abuse, for trafficking, for battered women, for any type of abuse. I think it's just the most crucial thing is to really hear them, like let them story come out, let them vent, talk. And I couldn't believe how much I had to just get my story out, like just saying, like, and I mean, the worker understood it and she just let me talk and talk. I'm like, why am I talking so much? Because I never, I guess because I buried it so deep down
Absolutely.
that I never got a chance to do the cleansing. Like it's almost like
Mhm.
your house springtime, and then that cleansing allowed things to kind of just go out in the air and really
Mhm.
perspective, and you go, oh, so that's what happened to me. And so I think
Yeah.
it's important. The other thing too I wanted to mention was how does these, like when you talk about satanic, how does this ritual get, like how do they know about your organization, and how do you find them, like just so that we know and we have an understanding?
So, the Lord just sends them. I don't know how,
Mm,
word of mouth, a podcast like this. I think they're so desperate and there's so few of us
yeah.
that they're searching and searching, and they might find my website or something. Um,
So please tell your website, because we're going to be broadcasting this and we're going to be sharing as much. And while we're at it, I mean, for us regular Joe who wants to help out, who wants to donate, so we want to know those website, and I definitely will be donating and supporting. This is when my friend Sal said to me, you definitely need to meet Kelly, and she talked to me a little bit briefly. I'm like, okay, get her on right away, because it's such an important issue. I really want to cover this as much as possible and really help as much as we can, because nonprofit organizations do so much for people. I mean, I am so grateful for the many organization that is in my community. And one of my good fellow classmates said something back 20 something years ago, 25 years ago, said, nonprofit organization, if we ourselves don't volunteer, all these beautiful organizations will cease to exist for our future generation and so on. So it's so important. If you can't donate in terms of money, you can donate in so many other ways. So please do help
yeah.
out. So your website is?
So my website is www.warriorbrideministries.com. It's also .org, so either one, but Warrior Bride Ministries. I think you can also do wbmga.org. But yes, it is very important. We're a 508c1a. That means that we don't get any government money. But we chose not to do the thing that would put us under the government's control, because unfortunately this topic has infiltrated all portions of our society. And so we have to be careful on that level too.
And do you see a pattern? Do you see anything that comes up? Like I remember when I was working in the field, there was like a pattern when we actually rescue people. Like when I say pattern, I mean like it could be random pattern for, is it, do they come from a type of typical family? Is it all across? Is it a certain social group? Is it a certain community? Is it a certain group of people?
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. So the thing about this topic is it's so in the dark that you would never think it would be your surroundings, but it is. It's everything from the people coming over the border, which a lot of them are what you call mules, which are taking the children over, and then they're putting them, in a cult or whatever, they're getting paid to do that. So it could be like that, but it also is some of the top families in terms of aristocrat and money and all of that. It's so it's infiltrated really every area. It's in the churches, it's everywhere. And I'm not saying everybody in the church, but what's happened is there's infiltration. Okay, that's a plan of the enemies, is to infiltrate. And then once you infiltrate, you can twist things to be aligned with him.
Mhm.
And so it has infiltrated really all levels of society. And that's a little bit of what you're seeing being exposed these days, or not even being exposed. It's manifesting, really, when you see people just acting crazy and stuff. It's all some of that infiltration that's occurred.
Mhm. And how
It's
long
the
does
fruit.
Mhm.
It's the fruit of it.
Yes, right. And how long does it take for like the victim, because different people have different experience. So I know the healing process may take a while and it's different from one person to the next. Um, but how long can like the person be supported and from going from one phase to another? Of course, if they start up really really young, they're going to need more support, but like how on average span, like how long do they stay in your service before they could actually start being somewhat independent, or have the
Right.
skill? Like you said, they come to you, they're like they have zero skills to
Yeah.
be able to function, reintegrate it into society.
Well, everybody's different because some people are functioning, but then their what I call a system breaks down,
Mhm.
and then they find me. So they were functioning, but then their system's breaking down, right? So then they have to get the healing, otherwise they'll be broken. So it just depends the way they come. It's all different ways. But in general, my heart is to work with them as long as it takes, as long as they're doing their part, because it's all about the will. If their will doesn't want to finish, wants to only get to a place of functioning but not total healing, well, that's where they're going to get. But
Mhm.
if they want total healing, well, then I'm going to work with them as long as they're doing their part.
Mhm.
Some just aren't ready, determined they're not ready, because like I said, it is hard work
Yeah.
for them. So some just start to do a little bit and they think they're not ready, and then they go try to live life, and then most of the time they find out they have to be ready and they come back. It just depends, everybody's different, every age. I mean, I've had age 2 to 80. So, and some are mothers and fathers that have to support their families, have to take care of them. So if there's not a space made for them to do deep healing, they're just trying to deal with like the worst things so they can keep functioning and taken care of until that time where they can make a space to
Mhm.
do some deep healing. So everybody's situation is different.
Absolutely. No, I understand completely. And it's not to say like rushing. I think people, it's only normal
No.
to come and then realize, oh, you're not quite ready, go back into society, come back. And they might do that like a few dance for a while before,
Yeah.
you get to like, okay, I think I really need to get this down before I can actually go and integrate and really fully be functional. I mean, just
Yeah.
us average people who really don't have a whole lot of situation and problem, we do that dance constantly.
a-
So
Absolutely. Yeah. And the 20-year-olds that come are interesting, because if you think about it, when you're in your 20s, you're having a hard time just functioning anyways. If you came from a healthy environment and stuff, you're trying to figure out who you are and all these things. Well, if you lay all this on it and they start to come to the realization in their 20s, that's a lot.
Mhm.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Often a lot of them don't seem to come to um, being aware of what was buried until the 30s. There's
Mhm.
something about the 30s or so that there seems to be a little bit of awakening to reality. Really kind of both in, those who haven't gone through it and with this scenario. So it seems like there's a lot that are, 30, 40, but there's younger too. So it just depends. And I actually see people too that haven't had, just for the record, haven't had sexual abuse. I mean, that is 90% of the people I see have had some form, but that really matches statistics. Like sexual abuse of some form is so rampant that
Mhm.
it's odd when I meet somebody who hasn't. But that's small percentage that haven't, but they need deliverance, or they need some healing. I see them as well. As long as I'm able and healthy enough and all that, I just feel like when the Lord sends to me, I will help to the best of my ability. So I do see people that just need, and sometimes they only need one appointment, or they might need two or three, but they don't need 2 years. Yeah.
Absolutely. And how many staff are you to be able, like, do you have a couple people? Is people of the community, can they help out? Can
Yeah.
professional, like, I don't know, like, do support line or offer any kind of times in any way, or?
So that is kind of like a little bit of a roller coaster, dependent on donations partly. Volunteers wise, we're so open to volunteers. I train people with the hopes that eventually they can just do, what I do instead of being assisting me. But then we have, an administrator that handles the office stuff. And then we have a coordinator that does a little bit of everything. And she also focuses a lot on like the emotional and physical portion. She does like the tinctures and the lotions. And she also does some DBT classes, which are grounding therapies, the biocharger, which is, some frequency healing for physical stuff. And we have a chiropractor that comes in twice a week that he specializes in body memory. We have a lady that comes once a month for sand tray therapy. So it's just kind of a mixture.
Yes,
we need people, and I'll take whatever I can get.
Yeah.
So
And do you take professional, like, from out of sea, from all over, or it just has to be local?
Is that for volunteering or what?
Yeah, the volunteering part.
So the volunteering part, you definitely, you could do so much online these days, right? So I have one lady that does some DBT classes. So there'll be a group, everybody on Zoom, right? And she does it there. I minister online as well as in person. So then I'll have my intercessor and note taker on there as well with me as I minister to them online. So you've got that. Then you always have just doing emails for us, follow-up emails, checking on them. If somebody could teach life skills online, if somebody can teach, whatever it is, that even being a friend, just being a mentor, being somebody that will talk to them, text to them, any of that. There's such a need. There really is so much. There really is. So everybody could have a place.
Yeah.
I am kind of revamping my volunteer. It used to be much more complicated, and now I'm making it very easy. That wasn't my plan to make it complicated. It was somebody else's. I'm like, no, we're making it easier because nobody can figure out how to do that. So anybody that did want to do it, they could just reach out to me, and we can find a place. But it's Kelly, Kelly Hawley, Hawley at wbmga.org.
wbmga.org, right?
Yeah, so that's like Warrior Bride Ministry Georgia.org, because we're based in Georgia, but we do minister online internationally. The Lord also sends us out throughout the United States at different times. We've had different churches have us come and talk or do seminars. We've had different churches or people who have somebody that is a victim and they're manifesting a lot and they don't know what to do with them. And so that we'll come out and we'll get them through, past a hump. And then sometimes they'll send them down here, or sometimes we'll just start working with them online after that. So there's just a lot of different things. We do a conference. Be having a conference. We're finalizing it right now this year. I think it's August 26th, like the last weekend there. And that's to teach and equip people. They've been pretty good in the past. We had like 28 speakers at our last one. We're gonna maybe scale it back a little bit this time. It was a lot of work, but it was really good, and I'm sure it'll be good again.
I don't doubt it for a second. Oh my God. I definitely will be reaching out after this way, brainstorming and ideas, thinking of ways of how I can contribute and help out on such an amazing cause, such an important one as well.
Thank you.
My brain is spinning like crazy here. So quite a bit of note, but definitely to the audience that are listening, if this speaks to you, if there's some way that you want to contribute and you want to reach out and you're not quite sure, just reach out to Kelly. Like I said, she wrote Kelly Hawley at wbmga.org. Reach out and then really just connect.
There's a dot in between the name, just so you know.
There's a dot between the name.
Yeah. So
Yes.
it's like Kelly dot.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Perfect. And I'm going to share all of that in the writing as well. So we're going to do that. I'm going to launch it this week. So that's it. Skipping quite a few speaker here because it is important. I do want to respect all the other speaker as well, but I think this cause is really important to just put it out there. So I will be launching this out this week. We're coming close to the hour, Kelly. I want to be able to highlight important things that you might have happening right now, platform, how we can rally behind your cause or things that we can do or take action. Just people listening to this already is huge. But I mean, right now, if there's an action that needs to be called, what is it that we can do? How can we help? How can we be of assistance?
Well, just, go into prayer, reflect and see what your position is in this fight. Is it to give? Is it to be a mentor? Is it to learn how to do what I do? Is it to help with the administration? Is it that you could do a class online, or if you're in the Georgia area that you could do it here? There's so much that needs to be done. And like I said, it's everything from life skills to the much more, clinical stuff to, the healing stuff and everything in between, because we all have our niche, our thing. I need a computer person to just help me with the computers, make sure everything goes well, everything's backed up.
What are your needs?
That's,
Yes, so a computer thing that somebody can help out. Any other needs that you might, because I just realized, yes, nonprofit organization, we have to list out the needs. So what are your needs?
And administration, computers, prayer partners, people to learn. There's so much. The need is so big that it's like I could go on forever. But mentors really need housing for them. So many people. I have a list of people that want to move here to get intensive stuff, but they need housing. And so if anybody wanted to ever sponsor any of them so that they could come here and get their healing, that would be just wonderful. That would be really good. And we have our conference coming up. We have a gala that's going to be in the middle of the conference, so I'm hoping that will go really well and be good for everybody involved.
So computer skill, sponsoring, mentors, friend, anything, any of those things. I mean, there's so much need, but let's start with what we really need right now. And anything that you guys could imagine of, I'm talking to the audience that you want to reach out, have amazing idea. And this conversation kind of just gave you a thought and you're like, I want to help. Please do reach out. I can't emphasize it enough. I definitely will be talking to you, Kelly. It's such an honor.
Thank you. Oh, thank you.
And it's only just a small portion. I can't wait to collaborate, but I already have in my head, in my own form of how I can actually help out in that way, in whatever small way. It's so important, but I see something that I really want to stand behind. So on this note, I really highly encourage people to really listen to this and really share this content to as many people as you know of, because it's so important. People are not aware of the severity of the situation. Just broadcast that to a couple of friends, those couple of friends, spread it out and that's how we actually start to make a little bit of a difference. But help out in any way, reach out as you can. And we're coming to that last point, and I want to be able to end it on a positive note. Do you have a quote or a saying that really can help inspire some of the victims or us ourselves that may be going through some hard time, that can really lift up our spirit a little bit?
Well, it's not really a quote, but I do just want to say that even though this is a dark topic,
Yeah.
there is hope. And there's not only hope, there's victory and there's life. That when Yeshua, Jesus Christ of Nazareth, came and died on the cross, he conquered death and he made a way. And that is the way that these victims are getting healed. But not only them, us as well, those that haven't gone through this extent. He is the answer to everything we're going through. He really is. And so I just want to, let you know that I know that a lot of the religious organizations have turned a lot of people off, but that's man doing that. He himself is good and he is the answer. And I just want you to know that for anyone who doesn't.
Thank you so much for that. And I want to also end on this note because I forgot to mention when it comes to rallying behind a nonprofit organization, doing and giving in any small form that you can, you think that you're the one giving the gift to people or helping the victim or helping the organization. But what I've learned over many years of doing volunteers and working in the helping field is that the greatest gift is the gift that they give back to you. And it always feels weird to me when I think like I'm the one kind of helping them out and doing the gift, and then I get back in return way more. And it's just beyond my mind. So it
Yeah,
really
I'll get God, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So I highly encourage you, do give in whatever form that is comfortable to you, because the reward that you get back is beyond money, beyond anything that you can. It really gives meaning to your life. And what a way to feel good about yourself. Every time when I feel down, I got to go and donate and I got to go and give. I got to go and volunteer, because after that, I feel like I'm worth something. They make you feel so good in the small gesture and their thank you and their hugs and stuff. So definitely, if you can volunteer, if you have the time or in whatever way, I highly encourage you to do so. So thank you so much. I hope that you enjoyed this episode, and please support in any way possible. Thank you so much, Kelly, for tonight.
Thank you. I enjoyed it so much. It was nice to meet you. Look forward to speaking with you afterwards.
Same here. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.